The email came out at 7 o'clock and I was not selected for it. And I remember lying face down on the bedroom floor and I cried my eyes out for hours.
What is it about hockey that turns you on?
I think I love the danger. I got in head, I lost an eye, I'm still playing. They manipulated me as like a left forward at the time, passed it round me, made me look like I was a training pome.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Getting Back Up with me, Anthony Ogogo. Today, I'll talk to a legend of British hockey. He's a two-time Olympian. He's a legend, a goal machine, described as one of the best goal scorers in hockey history, Sam Wood. He suffered a bad eye injury. He came back, but nobody gave him a chance of coming back. Enjoy this one, listen to it, learn from this great young man. Sam Wood, the goal machine. So firstly, thanks for coming on the podcast today. This is called Getting Back Up, where I talk to people like yourself that have achieved amazing things in their lives and their careers, but only after suffering so much setback. And I've done a lot of research in you, and mate, what a story.
Yeah, I think for me, it's an interesting one. Like, having lived it day in, day out, I will always sit here and say, it's easier when you live it, but I'm glad I'm not my parents, because I can imagine that some of the things they've seen in the last 3-4 years has probably been a lot tougher on their side when they think they can't help you.
Of course.
To how it is when you live it day to day.
Our journeys, mate, are so aligned. Like, what happened to you pretty much exactly happened to me. So personally, I want to know what you did and what I didn't do, because our journeys, we both hurt our left eyes. We both can't see our left eyes very well. You're sitting here, I think, 2-3 years after your injury? You're sitting here a much happier man than I was 3 years after my injury. And I want to learn from you. I've got the utmost respect and admiration for you and your journey. So with that being said, take me back to little Sam Wood, growing up as a kid in the early to mid-90s.
I think I was from a very normal background, back up in Leicester. I was looked after. My mum and dad were incredible people. They did everything they could for me. I was that little cheeky chap, carrying a bit too much timber. And yeah, I hated school. I think all I wanted to do was, I'll be completely honest, is sell things. And that's all I've ever wanted to do.
Can you explain that? What do you mean by that, sell things?
I always...
Like, I've got a friend of mine who's a proper Del boy. At school, he literally took things in his backpack and sold stuff. Do you mean that kind of thing?
If you could have got me to school, then yeah, I'd have been selling things at school. But the bigger issue was getting me there. I was the king of the radiator, put your head on the radiator saying you got the temperature. That was kind of how I did. I just love sport. I just wanted to be playing sport all the time. I grew up, I'll never forget, one of my early memories was 5 a.m. in the morning, playing cricket in the lounge with my dad. Mum's still asleep upstairs. Bang, crash, wallop. Dad, I've just straight drove one. I think that's English. Pumped it into the picture frame above his head. Dropped down straight on the top of his head. Dad's a bit struggling. I'm like, what is going on? And I've just managed to somehow drop a picture frame and smash it on Dad's head at 5 a.m. in the morning playing cricket in the lounge. That kind of summed my love for sport up. Moved kind of areas I'll never forget. I ran away from school aged 12. I'd plan my route for days.
You planned it?
I'd
meditated?
Yeah, I'd plan my whole route. Dad dropped me off at this front gate. I went in. I waited till he drove down the road. I made a run for it, down the road, out, over all the fields. I came home knee deep in my uniform, in mud. And as I ran onto the drive, Dad pulled back on the drive. I was, I've been caught. I've got going to school to discuss.
You didn't plan it. How old are you? 12?
Yeah.
You didn't plan it very well.
No, I didn't. I'd succeeded. What I wanted to do was just go home. But yeah, and then obviously you have to deal with the facts of obviously why you wanted to run away.
When you said you didn't enjoy school, that surprised me, because you're very personable and you're really likable, and like that you emanate that kind of same energy. So I'm surprised that you didn't like being in a place where people would be around.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I think because obviously, like, I'd say that actually I kept myself to myself, weirdly enough, at school, and I was very quiet. I sat in the corner and I actually looked like I worked really hard, but I didn't. I just kept myself to myself. And everyone when exam results came out and people were like, he's going to have done great, and they're like, how's he done so badly? He's just sat in quiet and looked like he's worked really hard all the time. And I just wanted to play sport all the time. If I could have 5 PE lessons a day, I'd have done that. I got a sports scholarship aged 15 to go to Workshop College in Nottingham, and it was one of those jokey things as a kid. If you were a naughty kid, you were told you were always going to boarding school, and now actually you got a sports scholarship to go to a nice lovely school. And I'm not going to lie, I loved being at home. I loved mum and dad are amazing, and I just loved their company, and I loved being around my family so much.
Brothers and sisters.
So I've got one sister, a couple of years older than me, and she was brilliant. She very smart girl, straight A's at everything. There's Sam coming in with 2 GCSEs. So a bit of a different story, and probably, mum and dad are like, what happened to this one? But I'd say it was around 14, 15. I went to boarding school and I hated it. I absolutely hated being away from home. I hated having my life.
This is a sports school where you play sport most of the time.
Well, normal school, but I was on a sports scholarship. Okay. So therefore, Workshop College, big private school in Nottingham. But yeah, normal school and everything, but I had to be a boarder because it was an hour and a quarter, hour and a half away from home.
What's that like? Because I'm working class as they come, and I don't know anybody's trying to board at school. What's that like? Is it mixed boys and girls, or just boys?
Yeah, so obviously boys and girls school we were at. Obviously you've got your divided boarding houses and everything, but it just wasn't for me. I hated it. I loved
just stuck with them. Or at night time, you're stuck with your like schoolmates at night time and in the morning, and
you don't get away from them. And this was my point. Like, guys around you were great, but I love my free time. I love being able to go, like, especially now, obviously I go and play golf all the time. But at that age, obviously when I lived at home, I'd be out every night just at hockey, whether it was my sister had county hockey training and I just go and whack a ball against a fence or whatever, or I had a school football match and all that. I was playing sport every night, being driven around playing sport. I now go to a boarding school, and at 5 what was it? It was 7 till 9 every night. You had to be doing prep. You had to be in your room. And I just felt like a caged animal. I was like, why am I just hate it.
You missed the freedom.
I missed the freedom, and I missed just the time of being taken around, playing sport every night. Yes, obviously you played a lot of sport there, but you still, obviously it wasn't a purely sports school, so you still had to get grades, you still had to do well. And for me, I just hated being away from home. I missed my family so much. It resulted in me just trying to go to the sick bay all the time and be like, I'm unwell. Anyway, that was kind of that.
Radiator trick.
And it did work when they had an actual thermometer. And that was kind of that first year, and it was I lasted about a year there. I did last a year, but my attendance wasn't fantastic, and that was a challenge. And I knew that my parents had done everything as well, because it was a scholarship and they still got to fund some of it, and you were being given this opportunity. But it all came to a head. We had a summer holiday, and it was about 3 days before we went back to term, and I was having horrendous night terrors. I've always struggled with them. I pulled the wardrobe down in the night on top of my head, and I was hiding, and fine, as in like pulling the wardrobe down, but it kind of all came.
You constantly did. You knew you were doing that.
Yeah, like,
you weren't like sleepwalking. You knew you were.
So I was sleepwalking, yes. So like a night terror sleepwalking, but there was obviously something behind it that was on my mind, and it took quite a bit. And I knew I never wanted to be going back to boarding school. I'd been given this opportunity, and it was kind of the thing that I felt should be done. But I walked downstairs next day and I just spoke to mum and dad, and I said, what do you think's going on? I said, I just can't go back. I remember breaking down in tears, crying my eyes out, writing some letters to the head of hockey, the head of cricket, to be like, sorry if I've let you down, but I just can't come back. The next day we went down to the local school, to Rawlins in Quorn, near Loughborough, and got me into the school. They said to me, we'd like you to go back a year. So we'd like you to be in the year below. We want you to start your 2 GCSE years now. And Sam, who wasn't the biggest fan of school, turned around and said, no, I
I just want to get this done. I want to leave school at 16 and that's it. And I want to get in the big bad world and start working really. And I love playing hockey. I'd seen already did bits and bobs of working for my mum at the time in the shop, in a hockey shop. And I just love selling things. And I was like, you know what? I just want to sell things and get to 16. I can now legally leave school and we'll go from there really. And that was kind of the early days of what happened for me.
This podcast is brought to you in partnership with Ogogo Fitness. Ogogo Fitness is my brand new fitness app I'll be launching really soon. I've created this app so I truly want to help people. I believe everybody should have the right to exercise and be fit and be healthy. I brought this to the world to promote physical health and mental health. I've designed 60 preset 7-minute workouts ranging in difficulty from round 1, which is pretty easy, to round 12, which is really challenging. As well as that, I've got my personal workout builder. I've created 50 different exercises, and you have the choice to create your own playlist from the 50 different workouts, which gives you an option of over 80 million combinations of workouts. 80 million. So from your GoGo Fitness app, you can literally choose from millions and millions and millions of workouts personalized for you and what you're training for. So head over to agogofitness.com, register your interest, and be the first to know when Ogogo Fitness is launching.
You spoke about night terrors you had to always have. Do you have them still now to this day?
Yeah, and they became very bad. What I'll talk about later on after the incident.
Okay. Well, it takes a lot for when you were 15, 16 at the time. It takes a lot for a kid to admit that and speak to his parents and say, "Mum, I'm struggling. I can't do it." That's full respect for me from that. It takes a lot to do that. So I've got all my respect there. Hockey. So you're here now as one of the top centre forwards in world hockey. When did that become your thing? Did you love it, or were you just good at it? Was it a way out of not doing school?
I think it was a combination of all sorts. I mean, I sound a bit mixed and a bit jumbled at times, and I am. I fall out of love with it all the time, still now on a day-to-day basis. But deep down, I do love hockey, and I think that is one of those things. I dreamt about being this great hockey player all my life, but as I kind of talk about it now, like I played junior hockey and I lived the dream when it came to hockey. I was under 11 national champion, under 13, under 15.
You were good from the beginning.
And that was it. Yeah, I was very good, but I was also a little fat kid. So during all of this, we got to 15, 16. I'm still banging in goals, playing to like regional hockey. England coaches just turned around and was like, not fit enough, not fast enough, little lad, never getting picked for England. And that was kind of what I was told, and you'll never kind of make it. And
what did I do to you like back then? It's
brutal. You can imagine. You kind of straight away, you're not taught how to deal with that, especially back, what we're talking 16 years ago nearly now. You know, the world was a different place, and mental health was very different and how people viewed things. So actually, it'd be very different, I think, if you're in the situation now. But I'd say, yeah, I remember just feeling like just so deflated and uninterested. And actually, after around that 16, 17 kind of, I just stopped playing. I had a lot of like growing pains, struggling on my knees. I didn't really play hockey for a while. I played a bit of local league football. And that was kind of that. And I actually really enjoyed it. And then you get to 18 and you enjoy a few shandies and you have a good time. And actually, when I was 18, I got a chance to go and do a bit of driving for the local car dealership. We knew the owner, and he said, I was basically looking for a job. And that was that. I was half on reception, half in sales admin, and kind of worked then actually for the next 4.5, 5 years in variety of roles, some normal car sales, fleet sales, and different bits and bobs, and kind of worked my way up and through, which was amazing. But it is one of those things, again, that was a different part of life where you just got to take your chance when you're given it. And I think that's probably kind of what has kind of got me to where I have today, because I had the challenges when it came to sport, but then also you've you've had your setbacks, but then also it's just when you do get given a chance, give it everything you can. If you can walk away at the end of the day, look yourself in the eye now, in the mirror, and go, you know what, I did myself proud today, then I'm happy. And so just to kind of backtrack in the middle of this is I had obviously 18, 19 selling cars and decided to go back. I got a phone call from Beeston, which was childhood club. And they said, oh, do you fancy coming back and playing? So I went back and played for the men's second team. And then about 3 months later, I weirdly enough got a phone call on Saturday night after playing for the twos saying, we've got an injury. Will you play tomorrow for the first team?
And what league is it? The first?
So the first team is Premier League, Premier League of hockey, same as Premier League football, but without the wages. Complete equivalent as that. And I've finally been given a chance. So after all this kind of setback in the past, I all of a sudden have gone back to playing hockey, and 3 months in, I'm kind of getting given a chance to play for.
So you obviously have this natural ability, which is like undeniable.
I basically, ironically enough, now we say it now, but I am now I forgot. It's as simple as that. And before I had two of them, now I've got one. Hopefully, I don't score half as many goals. And I went back, played for the twos. I still was a stocky lad, age 18, not that same size I am now, but I was stocky, not that fit, and kind of.
Are you fast?
Yeah, I am. Ironically enough, I have one of the worst running techniques you've ever seen.
5-10 yards of rapid, right?
But I'm a shuffler. I don't pick my feet up. It's very weird. We laugh and joke about it all the time. And so I went back. I obviously got picked for this. Went back to hockey. Got picked for this first team game. I got a phone call from Zach Jones, who was our Beeston coach at the time. Ironically enough, he's currently England and GB's assistant coach. So I'm back working with him again, 12 years down the line, which is a bit crazy, but absolutely amazing. And he called me on Sunday. We went down. A couple of boys got stuck in traffic, made my first team start. Obviously, hockey's a bit different. You have rolling subs, so you can play in and out all the time. But started, had a good game, played pretty well, considering our first ever time. Surbiton were like the top boys at the time. And I'll never forget it. Walked off, gone in to get some teas and whatnot. And I got called over by him and the manager at the time. And we actually, the year before, qualified for Beast in the club had as in Europe. So it's called the EHL. It's the Champions League of hockey. And they were like, we were going to Paris next week to play a couple of games. Any chance you can now come? Which was pretty incredible. I'm like, yeah, of course, great. So
let's if I get time off work.
Yeah, so little phone call.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, no one's answering the phone at work. What's going on? You need to care about that. So kind of make sure I can get it off work. They were amazing as always, and I went to play in Europe the following week. So went out to Paris. We played against Leuven, a Belgian side, and Paris Saint-Germain. So got there, and I didn't expect to play actually, because I was like, new to it all. Played both games. Unbelievable experience. Probably not many players have played more European games than they have first team Premier League games either. So that was a pretty cool start to my career, and it just kind of escalated from there. I had a good season that year and the following year. I then kind of fell out a bit of love again with hockey, but I was I was 20, 21. All my mates who I knew from growing up were allowed.
At this point, sorry to butt in, at this point, you're playing for a Premier League hockey team, Premier Division top team. You're working at the car dealership. Like, what, as a young man, we like to go to the pub, have a few beers, buy some nice clothes, you have a car. Like, what money are you kind of like earning? Like, how are you getting by? Is there money in Premier League hockey? Is there?
So obviously I was earning the money with work. So my bread and butter living was earning my wage at work. I was addicted to cars. I just took hockey for enjoyment, and the amount of times, I'm not going to lie, I got to a Thursday evening and was like, I don't fancy training, or I need to pull out or whatever because I'm just too tired from the week, or I've had to work late or whatever. So it had those challenges, and weirdly enough, about 2021, I decided I was going to go and play for Loughborough University. Well, I obviously wasn't at university, but their side are in the Premier League at weekends, so therefore I can play for them at the weekend.
Okay.
So you went there, you got your gym membership, you got your support and everything. And I'd still say when I joined them, I was probably burning the candle at both ends. I used to go out on a Wednesday with all my mates and the uni boys, and then go to work for 8 o'clock the next morning kind of thing. And I did burn, and then we'd go straight to training in the evening on the Thursday night. So
So it was one of those things where probably finding the balance would have been better. But it was around 2021 when I was there that kind of, there was a bit of a click in my head that I was kind of, I got like an England under 21s kind of trial. I didn't really want to go. I remember actually pulling out of one the night before. I just didn't think I was fit enough. And I actually, reality thought, I'm a bit closer than I realised, but now I want to go and make a change. So I decided I was going to change my life then. So at 2021, I decided I would get up every morning. I spoke to the boss. I was actually now doing fleet sales, so obviously it's more working hours on Monday to Friday, so I could still play hockey and whatnot. And I would get up every morning, 6:30, go to the gym, 7 till 8, straight into the office, bang, work till about 4, and then often we'll go back to the gym and stuff, and then obviously other training as well.
21, you were on it.
And I decided I was going to try and make a change. I think because I'd kind of been given a chance with some I'd been given some England under 21 trials. I got like a bit more support. I now have people also to help you and guide you. I had an S&C coach who was getting up every day, meeting me at 7 a.m. and giving me like the best opportunity. And
So other people's belief in you kind of like eventually kind of like, you know, you absorbed it. You felt almost like accountable. That you like, it's your responsibility to do it for them almost.
yeah, definitely. I think if you've got people there with you and actually...
They believe in you. Why can't you believe in yourself?
And also, I was scoring goals, I was doing well and everything, and it kind of just all tied in, and you were kind of like, this is kind of what I want to do, but also like, let's not get my hopes up again. Like, during this time, I decided to go back to play for Beeston, back to my childhood club. There's a lot to this. I went left, went back, left, went back, left, went back, bit all over the shop. And 21-22, went back to Beeston. Well, started the season absolutely flying, scoring shed loads of goals, and people started talking about it. Like this was like around 2012. Obviously, never played England stuff or anything. It's just after the Olympics, kind of. And like obviously, you knew there was going to be a new cycle start, everything refreshed, and kind of had England Reverend trials after this, and I kind of got invited because I was doing well in the league. Anyway, I'll never forget there was a trip going to Australia, and basically went to these trial days, and we were told we'd find out on a Friday night at 7 o'clock. And I'll never forget it. It was for this trip. There was like a special nines format, which never became a thing, and then a Champions Trophy. And I don't think I probably ever shared this, but the email came out at 7 o'clock, I think it was, on the Friday night, and I was not selected for it. And I remember lying face down on the bedroom floor, and I cried my eyes out for hours. 22, I was like, that is it. It's like the door is closed, like new cycle, 22 odd people been selected, completely new, no one from the old one going, and I'm not even in that. So this is it really. And I was mortified, but just like, you know what, I'm just going to tick along, keep working at work, and keep playing some stuff till the end of the season and kind of see how it goes.
That was a massive setback for you that when you're 22. And was that like your first big major setback as an adult?
Yeah, probably around then. And I remember ringing Dad, and there's a lot of stories where I ring Dad and end up crying, and it's like, what's going on, Sam?
That's what I'm honest about. I never had that, and I love that relationship between you two you've got.
But both of them, neither of them cared what I was doing. And I think this has probably helped me through my whole... I've never been peer pressured to do anything I didn't want. I remember saying I'm going to stop hockey, and I did for a year or so at 17. Didn't care. Nothing. Whatever makes you happy. Yeah. And that's how they've always lived by it. And it was the same. Like, obviously there was nothing they can do, and they knew I was mortified, but they were like, we'll be here for you, but there's nothing really to say to help me. Dad probably said, I think Dad actually said, let's meet at the pub, we'll go for a few beers, and we'll put it to bed that way. And that's probably how I used to deal with things in a more of a way. But I didn't go in and had a nice time, and yeah, I was upset, and I always had great friends around me as well. So that was kind of tough, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to see out this season. This was, yeah, as I said, December 2022, I think it was around then, that kind of happened. And then we kind of fast forward a couple of years just playing club hockey and still scoring loads of goals and doing pretty well. And then it was Christmas 2023 and in 2013. Wow. I was 23. It was 2013. And around November, December, there was indoor Europeans coming up for January. So went down, did a lot of selection days, worked were amazing, giving me time off. And I basically got picked for England indoor for the A division, which you're playing against the sides likes of Germany, who had playing for them like a guy called Mo Förster, who was nothing but like a hockey legend. And he was you're playing against all these people. And the week before, you're selling cars and life's very different. You're actually sat there going, wow, this guy that you always used to watch on TV is now playing against you. So absolutely incredible. But I went to that tournament, I scored 11 goals, I think it was, in about 6 or 7 games. And you do score a lot more goals indoor. But considering I've never played international hockey, I was pretty happy. Yeah. About 2 weeks later, just before I was going to make a decision about that, because it was also the end of the club season, I decided to check my emails, a random old email account that I hadn't used, and the head coach, that I hadn't used probably for 2 years, and the head coach had emailed me, basically inviting me to join the program.
Mate, that's crazy.
And
that's crazy.
It's so strange. And it was, I remember it because it was just a random email address I didn't use anymore.
And that random, just check, why did you check it that day?
I was like, well, why am I checking this like that? And it was like, it'd come, I think it had come like 2 days before, but just going on and seeing it was crazy. And I'm now obviously been invited, and around my mum and dad, told them I'm at work. I'm like, what do I do? Like, do I tell them? Do I not? Like, whatever. So I went home, spoke to mum and dad about it, and I'm not going to lie, I was like, do I take it? Do I not? And there was half of me, I was 50-50. Did I take this chance to go and be in the England programme or not? I was still a chunky lad. I wasn't that fit. I joined the programme and I did my hamstring every 2 weeks for about 6-8 weeks.
Because what, the intensity of the training?
Intensity of training, and I probably couldn't quite get out of my car salesman lifestyle that Friday training session finished, I'm going to go to the pub. Yeah. Saturday, Sunday, and then I'm going to go back to training on the Monday.
Who inspired you going up?
Oh, parents. Yeah. Like dad played, mum and dad met playing hockey. They played in the same mixed team together. And I remember going and watching every weekend, watching play hockey. I remember dad used to score goals for fun as well.
So I was going to ask you, like, I don't know much about hockey. I played it for maybe one time in year 6. And I quite liked it, little slash and rack, like a little stick. I quite liked it. So you very much had the blueprint made out for you by your parents playing it and stuff.
So different. I was bred into it basically, and that was kind of why I've always played hockey, and that was probably like, it's the same as other people. If their parents were into football, they often get kind of it. And also back then, I remember going to school, and I'll be honest in saying this now, I remember getting bullied because I played a girls' sport. Really? Yeah, you play a girls' sport. Well, no. Nothing is. Like, at the end of the day, everyone should have the equal opportunities to play sport. And then I remember, like, you'd go and play PE at school, and you'd end up playing uni-hoc. And then it's obviously just not hockey in a nice way. And then people would be like, oh, you're terrible at hockey, blah, blah, blah. It's like, actually, that age, things like that are quite hard to hear when actually you're out at the weekend, pounding away, scoring goals for fun. It's a bit different. I think so that, obviously, some of that stuff affects you in some ways.
Is that why you kept yourself to yourself, do you think?
Probably, yeah. Because obviously everyone always thought, oh, you played this sport that wasn't meant to be for males, and it's far from that. And I think that's why I love our sport so much, is because it is for everyone, and it's incredible, and that's one of the best things about our sport overall.
On hockey, let's talk about hockey for a minute. Like, what is it about hockey that turns you on?
I think I love the danger. So I'm the world's worst bloke when people currently talk to me about safety of hockey. I got in the head. I lost an eye. I'm still playing. And I love it still. So therefore, when people talk to it, yes, there's an element to go, I don't want to see this happen to anyone else. And of course I don't. But there's also a side of me that I'm not wired up right, and I just love the thrill of getting whacked by a ball. If I didn't enjoy getting whacked by a ball 10 times a day, I wouldn't turn up to training at the minute. Because I do, it's just constant, a barrage of ball. If you train for a couple of hours a day, at that level we do, like, balls come flying in at quick speed and they are just hitting you. But you just shake it off and crack on. So there obviously is an element of the thrill, and the danger is something I really, really love. And when people talk to me about, oh, if we took this away, it would be a bit safer, I'd be like, yeah, I wouldn't be that interested in playing. Do you know what I mean? And
there's the fun in it.
Yeah.
I get it, mate. You're talking to somebody that totally get it. They say in football, like, goalkeepers are crazy. That's the little thing. I think, like, boxers, we get punched in the head all the time and come back for more. and seek better sparring partners that are bigger, stronger, punch harder. It's like, and you want it more. It's similar kind of, and that's the mentality, isn't it? I think that's the mentality of somebody that wants to be great. They keep pushing themselves and stuff. It's a fast game, and hockey's wild fast, man. It's like when I've been watching like clips of you and your injury and obviously your goals and stuff. It's so quick. It's a fast, exciting game.
I think that's what is fun about the game. At the end of the day, we can self-pass, which I think if they brought into football would be amazing. Imagine if instead of rolling around for 5 seconds on the floor, you could get up, tap the ball forward and play on. Like the speed and how much the ball. It is not probably the best sport for television because it's too fast. Yeah. And you need so many cameras. But if you turn up and watch, people come and watch now and go, oh, wow, it's next level. And how fit you have to be.
Yeah.
It's just next level.
What makes a great hockey player?
Not me.
But you've got the eye for goal.
So
you've got that thing they say in football all the time, like the strikers get paid the most money because they've got the hardest job, putting the ball in the back of the net. And you've got that ability to do so. I've heard you say you're not that talented, not as talented as other people, but you've got that almost God-given ability that wins matches, right?
Definitely, and I'm willing to dive and get in. And 90% of my game is bravery and my lack of fear and my willingness to do the hard job.
And you can't put a price on that.
No. But if you put me in and amongst our squad and said, go and show off your best tricks, I'm not sure just ploughing through the guy in front of you is a trick, but it's what I do. And the amount of times we talk with some of the staff, they're like, okay, we're going to run to space. Well, can't I run through that way? And it's not that, it's just my way is to go the most direct way. Yeah. And actually, I'll get a little lift that goes through and I'll run onto it. And I'm more of a chip and chaser.
England debut, you beat the world number 1 team. Hadn't beaten them in years and years. Away from home, you scored 2.
And got man of the match.
Man of the match.
Amazing feeling.
Actually, you've got something. Like, there's something, even just not knowing anything about hockey and hearing you talk, you've definitely got something. Like, you've just got something. There's something special about you. You've got some aura where you can go to. Because most people, in their England game, England debut against the best team in the world, they shrink. But you have that thing where you grow. That's amazing.
I think I was just so clueless to what was going on that day.
Yeah, but no, I think there's been... we'll come on to
if I spoke to myself again, I obviously would have been, I think, even more like, wow, what an occasion. But I do think it was simple things, like singing the national anthem for the first time. I was absolutely buzzing, you know what I mean? And
how big did you feel?
I was already big. I felt double massive.
Double massive.
Double massive. But yeah, and
amazing feeling, right?
It was just incredible. And that was kind of the stop, but I got the taste. And that was just what I needed.
Did you like training? Did you like the hard graft?
I absolutely hated the gym and running. So it was really hard. And now I have a complete reverse and I love it. I absolutely thrive off it. I also got nutrition advice. Never forget, walked into a nutritionist. Obviously, as I said, my skin folds weren't great. We're now putting in a plan. I remember having to keep a food diary permanently of everything I ate. And I actually wasn't eating enough calories. And my body was just storing the fat. And then I couldn't train as hard. And that was actually what it was. He was like, you're going to 4 meals a day, you're going to do this. I was like, yeah, but I'm a fatty and now I've got to eat more food. Like, things just didn't really... Anyway, it was like, just trust the process. About, I reckon, 10, 12 weeks later, I was 9 or 10 kilos down. So yeah, over a stone and a half.
I was
yeah. And I was a lot of weight. When I looked at it, it was like all puppy fat, but actually I was carrying a lot more than you realise. And during that time, I lost weight, I got fit, I went back. I'll never forget my first session back. So first session back, useless. Following week, get taken to play against Germany, who were one of the tactically best sides in the world. They manipulated me as like a left forward at the time, passed it round me, made me look like I was a training cone. I remember every video meeting.
Training cone.
The following week, we've got Olympic qualification selection. And now we're getting to about April, May in 2015. And we got this trip to Antwerp, it was, for selection. And I luckily got given the chance to be like, we know, like, you'd had about 2 sessions back after X amount of time. You're not very much into it. Just come out here, give it your best shot and see how you go. Well, I went out there, scored a few goals, and I'll never forget it. We landed back on the Friday night. I got a train straight out of London. back to Leicester and I was on the train. It was midnight and we got the selection email for the Olympic qualifier, and I remember sitting there and just literally my heart sank and was like, oh my God, I've been picked for this. And I was like, this is it. Like, the hard work was worth it. And actually, from that moment, I've been pretty fortunate. Like, I then kind of lived the dream. I've been picked for a lot of things, but that was the base to my career, I would say. And those 3 months have turned me into what I am.
Yeah. That moment of getting the email, was that the best, at that point, the best moment of your career?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. You're being picked for Olympic qualification tournament out in Antwerp. It's going to be amazing. Your first major tournament, really, and big tournament. And a lot of the following year relied on it, because if you didn't qualify, your funding could be gone, everything. So it was quite big. And that tournament was amazing. Never forget it. We qualified. We played Pakistan. We beat them 2-1 that day, and it was incredible. And then kind of you progressed. I think we came third in that tournament, beating India 5-2, I think, or 5-3 in what was the bronze medal match. But the way the tournament, but it got you into it, and that was the main thing.
At that time, Sam comes into the GB squad, England squad, GB squad, early 20s. What are you like around the boys? How's you changed? Because I look at you, right, and I get the sense you're kind of like a Paul Gascoigne, that's Ronnie O'Sullivan, kind of like, you're a maverick. You do things, you're very outspoken, you're like a bit of a, I don't know, you're a maverick, right? You're a bit of a savant in hockey. Like, were you always like that when you joined the squad? Were you a bit quiet? Were you shy? Do you revert back to your school days, or have always been you?
I'd say I was very quiet early on in my career days. I think people knew I had it in me to be a bit out there and whatnot. But yeah, probably early days was quiet and growing into the environment, I'd say. But then obviously to play and be how I wanted. And I have battled with my own emotions for a lot of my career. And I still probably did until I got a good kick this year as well. I want to be loved, and I want everyone to care about me. But also, when I play hockey, I can't be that guy. And that in a dressing room is quite hard, because people have to accept people like me. But I realise that your intentions are the right way. I lacked emotional intelligence, I would say, to try and find that middle ground. And it's only at the moment where I've worked very close with the current head coach and site to say, you'll be loved for being the Sam Ward who he is, because you will help and succeed this way. But also, they know that you'll be the first to go and pass him on a coffee, go and sit and have a chat. How's your day? And actually, now people understanding me and working hard on those connections is probably what has changed things for me so much. And the realisation came during the eye injury.
I want to talk about the Olympic Games, because obviously I want to kind of get through to the eye, because we're now kind of like organically kind of getting to that point, which is great. But the Olympic Games, 2016, Rio de Janeiro. Wow. Talk to me about that, mate. You qualified, you got the, so you went to the qualification, you beat Pakistan, beat India, and you came third, you qualified. What was that moment like?
Incredible. I will never forget, still to this day, also like the selection email day. Weirdly enough, I didn't want anyone around me. So I decided to drive to Cherwell Valley Services off the M40.
Classy.
And sit there and wait for the email on my own. I didn't want anyone around me. I didn't want anyone. If there was disappointment, I didn't want to tell anyone. I didn't want anyone to know, and vice versa. It was strange. I still reflect on it as why, and I changed that for the next time.
So you qualified in the tournament, but that didn't mean you were definitely going to go. You had to go for the email.
So we qualified in, I think it was May 2015. Selection for the Olympic Games is until June 2016.
Oh, mate, 11 months.
Yeah, so 13, I think it was. 13 months. You have got to now perform well, keep your place, prove you're worth it, everything, not get injured, you name it, that's what you've got to do.
When you got the email, you see the little services on the M40, which I think is hilarious, by the way. When you got it, what was your initial reaction? And I say that because I had the most brutal qualification to Olympic Games, right? It was horrendous, injuries, this, it It was horrible. And I boxed this Georgian in a remarkable fight. I came back from came back from 6 points down in the last round. Never ever been done before. And then when the ref lifted my arm up, I dreamt at that moment. I dreamt about it. My whole life had been Olympic Games. That was only the thing I ever cared about, Olympic Games. And I thought, when I won a fight, I'm going to do backflips. I'll be doing like all this mad shit. Breakdance, cutting breakdance. And then when he lifted my arm up, I was like, yes. Okay, cool. Like, it's weird. I thought, I'm now where I always should have been anyway. It was a really strange feeling because, like, it wasn't anticlimactic. It was still amazing, but, like, I just thought I was going to be all, like, over the moon. And I was like, okay, I'm just now where I should always have been.
Yeah. So for the kid that sold cars and never expects to be in this position, and 2 years before, theoretically, from that selection email, I was just leaving selling cars to now being there. He sent shivers down my spine. I instantly just burst out crying. I ran my parents to tell them, and it was amazing. The feeling was unbelievable. The glow on my face, I can imagine. I drove straight home all the way to Leicester to see them. It was amazing. And yeah, it felt so good because I'd achieved something after all the hard work and being told so many times you'd never make it.
All the rejections.
That was it. But this was reality, that you were made that this was everything in life. And then it was an absolute shower. It was horrendous. I put my life and soul into this. I'd now got given a dream chance. We got to Rio. I'll never forget arriving. You're in this village. We're there early. We're the first team in the village, I think we were, because we got to acclimatise. I think also not many sports are in from start to finish, whereas we, ironically enough, should have been. And we kind of had a day to soak it in, and then it was like, nope, focus now, all about the hockey. And I think we actually, in that tournament, like strangled ourselves with just being so focused on the hockey. We just weren't enjoying the now. Yeah. And we'd gone into that ranked fourth in the world. We bombed out the group stage. We were shocking. I flew home 2 days later and I sat in a dark room for 2 weeks. Oh, really? It's one of those when people ask, can I sit here and say I'm proud to be a double Olympian? Yes, I can. But can someone ask me about that experience and say, did you enjoy it? It's just tarnished because I gave everything for what I thought would be so incredible. I stopped drinking for 9 months. I didn't do anything. I screwed up relationships and friendships because of that. And actually, you sit there now and go, wow, the things I didn't do or enjoyment, and it just wasn't worth it. Yeah. And now it's finding a balance. And I came home, I'll never forget, I flew home, I paid for a flight home, I got home, I sat in the room, and I just couldn't leave the room. I couldn't face people. And I finally left the room a while after. And I was obviously struggling. But during this time, the girls had gone and won gold. And you're back in the local area where everyone trains. And I remember walking into the local cafe, and the first thing someone said to me was, wow, the men were terrible, the girls got gold. I walked out and I just didn't want to face anyone again for weeks. And it was brutal. I hid behind it for a long time. I was so unhappy. I didn't know how to deal with my emotions. I didn't want to go. I played for Holcomb at the time when we were flying to Hamburg about 2 weeks later, and I tried to pull out to not go on the pre-season trip. I got made to go, and I just spent 3 days in the pub.
Was it the disappointment? Was it what hurt so much?
I think I just felt I'd let everyone down. Like,
You'd let everyone down?
Yeah, like no reason. Like on reflection, no, I'd done well. I'd scored goals. I'd played pretty well. But for some reason, I just could not understand why we had done so badly. My emotions were all over the shop. And if you're ranked 4 in the world and then you're basically 10 to 12, like, you feel you've let everyone down that supported you. And just because you have put everything and so much into it, you kind of felt worthless and lacking purpose. And also, your life was based around this. And now it was done. It was a bit of a non-event. And I just didn't know how to deal with it, which resulted in me obviously seeking help. And it was actually in the end, I think a doctor spoke to me, one of the doctors at Bisham, and went, I don't think you're okay. And I actually spent a fair bit of time visiting the Priory at Woking. And even that, again, going and getting help and support was incredible. But it was only on the last day when I knew I was done that I ran and told my parents I'd been going. And they were like, they knew something, because at certain hours for every second week for X amount of time, you would just not contact them or whatever. And
So was this your first battles with mental health, your mental health, was it after Rio?
Yeah, massively.
Because of the disappointment.
And I think,
Olympics was there.
yeah, and I think life had gone from just you grinded every day and you put everything in to now I just felt like I had no purpose anymore. And I couldn't focus. I just didn't know where to go. I genuinely felt. I got to the point after when I started going out after Rio, I was training 3 to 4 times a day. I was going to the gym, running, coming home, going back to the gym, doing weights, going back to. I was focused. I was weighing myself 20 times a day. Just like I was just mentally not okay. I just didn't know how to cope.
So you're talking, mate, and that's hitting me in places you can't imagine. Like that feeling of like being lost and feeling worthless. I went through that. I had to retire from boxing, and my whole purpose in life was gone. And I didn't get it. I don't understand I thought I was born to be a boxer and become world middleweight champion, and I could not imagine life where that didn't happen. And then my dreams were taken away from me, and I really struggled. Can you talk to us about the process of like you came back from Rio and you sought help, you went to the pro, who told you, who recommended you should go, and what are things you struggling with, and what did they help you with? If you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, no, I completely. I still, and it's really weird because I think I just needed to talk to someone about what was going on, and I think this is the thing. Like, I don't think I overly had major issue. I just was scared that I was male, and talking about your emotions was frowned upon, and that's how I felt. And you didn't feel like you wanted, as close as you are to so many people, you never thought you wanted to put the burden on anyone else. And actually, that's why. So the doctor was the person who spoke to me about it, and said, "Team doctor." Yeah, team doc in the end. And I kind of went to see it, and I wasn't happy. And he said, "Yeah, I think." And I went, "Yeah, actually, yeah." And it was almost like because the person I was speaking to, I didn't know, I wasn't being judged, so therefore it was okay to say whatever you wanted to them. And it was really strange. And actually, it was only after going through all of this and just basically, it was just major disappointing feeling you've let people down and just not being able to kind of calculate your emotions. But it's the fact you were talking to someone that didn't know you and no judgment felt like it was being made. And I can imagine how many people feel like that now. And actually now I just talk to my mates about it. I just pick up the phone or I drop the psycho message and just say, "I'm feeling like this." And the amount of times you get a message back that just says, "I understand." And you're like, "Yeah, okay." And also, like, when I've spoke to someone, I feel like it's half. Like someone else knows. And I don't know, just it always felt like the weight was lifting off your shoulders because you'd shared it. Yeah. And I don't think they ever did anything that made... They never did anything that was groundbreaking. I think they just listened.
Yeah.
And it sounds so strange and so simple, but that's now where when I speak to people about so many bits and bobs to do with mental health, I'm like, just please speak. And the amount of people, I've got friends now that I'll message and go, I notice people's behaviours now. I notice how I was. I was aggy. I was snappy. There's certain behaviours. I've got friends that don't do their hair when they're not feeling right. Sounds silly because they're worried about pets. And they're the most personally proud people. But all these little signs and stuff you can pick up in people. Yeah. You send a message, you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. No, you're not.
Yeah.
Are you sure you're okay? Yeah. Are you? No. Actually, there we go. Yeah. And I think a lot of it now comes in the fact that being able to help people because you've been through it and you've understood your signals, you can now ask people questions. Yeah. And the amount of times it comes out, it sounds silly, but you go after a game and you sat in the park with your mates and you go, "Are you okay?" And yeah. Are you? No. What's going on? Talk to me. And actually, you then pick up the conversation a day later or whatever and say, "Look, I'm here for you. If you need a chat, do." And that's how I feel the big change. And yes, having gone through that made the I so much easier to deal with because I'd learned a lot about myself, but the I taught me very different lessons.
Yeah. When I started going to therapy, when I was retired from boxing, 2019, so I hurt my eye in 2016. I had 9 surgeries on my eye. over 3 years to try to get back in the ring, and it wasn't to be. It went through a real horrible legal dispute with the doctor, did it on surgery, but they were in favour of them because of just legal stuff. So I lost everything. I lost my career. I lost my passion, my job, my dream, everything. And then when I started going to therapy, I knew my wife is like, she supported me so much. For 3 years, she held my hand and she supported me, and she could have been any better. She's like, you need to get some help. And I thought, no, I don't. I'm me. I ain't got to get help. I want to talk to somebody. I'm talking about, like, I've got it covered. And I started going to therapy. So in 2019, and a counselor or whatever, I lied. That's it. I told this lady, who is very qualified and very good, I told her what I wanted to tell her. I told her this story, and I was the hero of my story. I was the hero of it, right? And I was like, telling her, like, the story that I wanted to pretend was real, rather than, and I got nothing from it. I come back, like, my missus will say, yeah, it's really good, yeah, I'm basically cured. I'm basically fixed, I'm healed. And then it wasn't until about 6 months later, I had a huge blow up, and I was really upset, and I was depressed, and I was this whole time. But I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to tell anybody. I didn't want to admit it to myself that me, a boxer, a fighter, a warrior, was depressed. And then I went back. I saw somebody else, and I was like, "Hey, this is me." And I just went and told her everything, warts and all my bad points, the worst points of me, aspects of me. I told my therapist, and I still see her to this day, and she's amazing. And like, I've learned so much, and I'm way happy. I like me. I went to go see my wife's mum. We had a weird chat, and she said to me, I'll never forget this. She said to me, "Do you like yourself?" And like, I thought it was a really silly question. I thought, of course I do. I'm fucking me. Like, I'm the best of this, and the best of this, and funny at this, and do that. Like, I can do everything. And I was about to say, of course I do. What a silly question. And no words came out. I just couldn't speak. And I'm not a speechless person. And then I thought, fuck. Like, I don't think I do. And I was lying to myself all this time. And then I saw proper help, and I was very honest with myself. And yeah, like you said, mate, like, often they don't get a wand and do anything magic. It's just talking, right? It's just talking and just like you said, halving your own problems and realizing that actually you haven't got a lot of weight on your shoulders. Like, you are a good person, or a kind person. You are enough. And sometimes I never felt like I was enough, or for boxing defined me, and it doesn't. I define me. And I just think you're really, really brave for that. Anyway, back to your story. The Olympic Games 2014. You said it was a shower. So now we're getting to the bit that you're probably most well known for.
Yeah.
For good and bad. Good. Talk to me about 2015 and up to present day. All the ups and downs and twists and turns that kind of like encompass this crazy time.
So we spoke about obviously Rio and the Olympics, and I came out, I reckon, I'd say about the middle of 2017. I'd say I came out the other side of it, and I started on the up. We won a bronze medal at the 2017 Europeans. I remember we beat Germany 4-3 in the bronze medal match, and kind of things were on the up, and I was living the dream. I was scoring goals. We went to the Commonwealth Games in 2018, Gold Coast. I said it will never be beaten. Best experience of our life. What a place. Yeah. Top goal scorer in the whole tournament. Just absolutely tore it up. Flying in life. Everything incredible. And that just carried on. Probably until, I would say, November the 3rd, 2019.
November 3rd, 2019, you walked onto a hockey field.
And my life changed forever. For the first time ever, it was an Olympic qualifier again. New qualification system. You basically played a 2-legged game. We're in London playing against Malaysia at the Olympic Park. And I think I can't remember the exact scores. I had a bang on the head since then. But we're winning quite well on day one. I think, well, maybe 3 or 4-1, but we just needed to go and put the game to bed early doors on the Sunday. So I think I got badly fouled in the first couple of minutes, won a penalty stroke. Teammate took it and scored. I scored a really nice goal, shot from the baseline, normally quite frowned upon, but scored a lovely goal there.
A little chip, right?
He's literally shot on the baseline, a little dink over the shoulder,
gorgeous,
beautiful.
mate.
And then scored a penalty corner early in the second half. Basically, we've qualified for the Olympics. We're living the dream. I am flying. I'm running around.
home,
I'm happy. Home crowd, full crowd, going mental. 20 minutes to go. Never forget it. Ropes gets the ball, shoots, keeper makes a save. I was at the near post, decide I'm going to get to the far post. Teammate trapped it, and I know him really well. He's a close mate of mine, absolute legend, and he's more likely to trap it and push it a goal. I was like, do that. I'm going to get to the far post, and I'm going to basically try and just guide it if I can get in front of the goalie just in, because it's going to be a quick snapshot. He traps it and absolutely whacks it. And I have not thought about that. He's struck me square in the left-hand side of the face. It has sheared off my eye socket, apparently. I've obviously kind of still standing, tried to get out of the way, dropped to the floor. I've now tried to get up as quick as possible. I've what felt like 3 seconds from getting hit to being pushed over. I was being pushed over by the doc and the physio. I think they'd definitely been putting in some sprint work for this, because how they got on that quickly, I don't know. They're pushing me over and I'm like, I'm fine, just get me off the pitch. So like, we need to check your neck, you've been struck on the head. So I'm very aware I've been struck on the head, but my parents are 40, 50 yards away in the crowd. Just get me off this pitch. Like, I don't think there could be anything worse as a parent. Can you imagine? Blood is flying everywhere out my face. You're lying on the floor. If I'm down there for a fair few minutes, imagine sitting watching that. I was like, just get me on. I remember standing up, being given by the physio like a piece of gauze to like apply loads of pressure on the side of your eye where the cut is. So we know nothing that's going on right now. So I am forcing as much pressure as possible on this cut on the side of my eye while making little yelping noises and saying, I can't cope, I'm getting lightheaded, just get me off quickly. I've walked off with their guidance. We've got into the medical room inside. We've got the doc in there with me. The physio's gone back out in case anyone else gets hurt. And the performance director, he's sat already. He's somehow come out the stands, got down, and obviously realised that things aren't great. He sat there on the bench waiting for me. Anyway, on this bench inside this room. And I've walked in, sat next to him. And I said, first of all, I can't see. All I can see is blood through my left eye. It's fuzzy as hell. I feel dazed, quite dazed. And he just went, don't look in the mirror. Obviously, instantly. Stand up, look in the mirror. I've just got a whole indentation of ball shape in my head, but everywhere else is swollen. My head's massive. And I just said, text this number. As you do. I'll never forget it. And I said, I don't know whose it is, mum's or dad's, but just text it and say, Sammy's fine. That's all I want you to do. Anyway, he does it. He then rings them and says he's all right. Anyway, they in this time have managed to get out the stand, try and get round. The security in the building won't let them through the back end. They're like, my son's been smashed in the head, like, let's get him too. They've had nothing but major issues getting through, apparently. Luckily, one of the event staff knows mum and dad and would like to the staff let them through quick. By this time, they wheeled me into an ambulance. Sat me in the ambulance. I just remember looking out at the ambulance door as mum and dad have walked down the stairs up to me. I'll never forget. I gave mum a big hug, and mum, you can imagine, wow, looks absolutely broken. And dad, mum steps out the ambulance, dad steps in, gives me a big hug, and I just say to him, I will be fine. Look, I'm still standing, I'm good, doesn't matter, I will be fine. He says, sure, well then, yeah, he went, that's it. And that was enough for us to have had that kind of acknowledgement, I'm fine. But since obviously I found out, they got straight in the car, drove 2.5 hours, both cried their eyes out the whole way home, not a clue what's going on. I can't use my phone, I can't see. I'm all over the shop. I've decided to start record. You say you can't use my phone. I can't see properly, but I've managed to learn how to video. So I've sent a video to the whole squad while completely on another planet, I must have been. Quite.
From the drugs or the
Yeah, just I think a combination of both. In utter shock. I remember a FaceTime with George Pinner, who was the GB Gomble at the time, and he also plays on the club side with me, who's like, are you all right, mate? Obviously realised back in the ambulance, oh dear, no. Like, we're shouting at each other, we're going to the Olympics. That was kind of that conversation, and that was that. Off we trot to the hospital. I remember then starting to struggle. I hadn't really had any pain relief. They wanted to get me to hospital. They were like, look, we need to get him on some strong. He's in agony. Like, get him in. I'd been pre-warned because of my humour. Staff have been working a long day. Probably don't need to hear any sampled sarcasm right now. Nurse walked straight in. First comment, probably shouldn't head a hockey ball, should you? My instant response was, you don't say, do you? Our doctor turns around and went, that was what I was talking about. So I'll never forget it. And I'm crying with laughter, like, she deserved it. And Doc was like, yeah, I'll give you that one. Probably a silly comment. Got whipped into a scan, and I'm now obviously, I'm morphined up. I'm getting some pain relief. I'm chatting absolute rubbish to everyone. And apparently I've come out of the scanner, and Doc's like, what's he done? I'm like wailing with laughter. I think it's the world's funniest thing. I'm now finding it so funny that I've just said, does it look like I've been in a car crash? They're like, well, actually, yeah, it does. Your face is in numerous pieces and quite funny. So I think it's really funny now. It's not funny at all. Doc, we've been whipped away into a side room. Doc's come in and said, look, like, just a pre-warning, you might have to have emergency surgery tonight because someone's on their way. They need to check your eye. If it's a risk of losing your sight, you're going to have emergency surgery. Anyway, they came in, they said, no, we think it's all right. We can't see what's going on behind the eye because of swelling. In the middle of all this as well, they've had to dilate the right pupil. So now I am fully blind for a bit. Quite entertaining. I am getting the doc to go on my phone, hold the voice note, and I'm leaving voice notes replying to all sorts of people. Can't see a thing. So also, I'm chatting absolute rubbish because I'm obviously in. All I'm asking for is a McDonald's. I've sent the team managers now has gone to try and find me a McDonald's and come in with a local sandwich. In which we don't really
let down.
Which now I'm upset about, / not, like, kind of really angry. Yet gives it me, and then we realise that actually I fractured down here. I'm like, my jaw's floating and moving. Well, obviously I couldn't bite because it was broken, like, just below my nose as well. Like, there was so many fractures, so many places. I basically then have a full night in a hospital, which was the weirdest night. The guy next to me was chained to his bed to policemen. Like, it was crazy. There was a guy came in. I actually wasn't having a nightmare. A guy was stood at the end of my bed staring at me. I had to keep pressing the red button. I don't know what in, but he'd come in at like 2 a.m. I obviously can't sleep. I am all over the shop. Just sat upright. The boys are out celebrating. So I'm just leaving them voice notes, chatting rubbish. I've also now have thousands of WhatsApps. So I've decided 2, 3 a.m. in the morning. I now can see again. So I now think to out my right eye because that worn off. So I decided that now was the right time to reply to every man and his dog. Interesting night, up all night, and then basically got like whisked away to home the next day in the afternoon. So kind of, I'd needed all the swelling to go down before I had the surgery that obviously was to remove my face and repair everything. So pretty wild, 24 hours. Yeah, it's just mixed emotions. Probably was being told that everything would be all right. Like, I was like, I really can't see out my eye, but they were like, it will drop out. You just got to sleep upright for 6-8 weeks and hopefully it'll gradually drop out. And even the early doors, the fluid was. So went back, stayed at family friends, actually. They looked after me in Marlow to make sure I got people around me full time because they didn't work. Make sure that someone was on duty full time. Had surgery, came round. I was in for only a day. I came out the next day. Obviously, you can imagine 31 staples over the top of your head, stitches all the way down. Couldn't go anywhere. Everyone wants to stare at you. I'm obviously just like, it's just normal. It's on my head. Everyone who looks is like, oh my word. I obviously put it on Instagram. People are like, this can't be real, kind of thing. And I was living it. I was fine. I was finding it quite amusing.
How was your eye at this point? How was your vision at this point?
So this is a bit like fluid had dropped out a bit. So I lost full central, obviously now with a slight bit of peripheral out here, but it was still just horrendous. Like it was useless, like completely not enough fluid was dropping out. Anyway, when I went to see Professor Holmes in the follow-up appointment the following Monday after surgery, I went in and he went, surgery, superb. I've rebuilt you. You look superb. And I was like, I know I do. It's great. Like, showed me all the pictures. Amazing. It's like, thanks so much. I was like, you do know I can't see though. And he looked at me and I was like, I can't see. He was like, what do you mean? I was like, no, I can't see it when I've done. So, okay, that's not my department, but we'll whip you across. So they whipped me across to the other side of the hospital. And I remember being taken into a room. They're like, we're going to scan your eye in a second. So anyway, take me into this room. And this chap was soulless. He shows me two pictures. He's like, here's good eye, here's bad. It's like, good eyes, like beautiful velvet sheets, like half smooth. And this literally looked like someone had got the other picture and just put a knife through the middle of it. He was like, this one, not so good. I went, any more? And he went, no, go and sit outside. Anyway, this couple of minutes before I was waiting to see the doctor again was like, felt like 15 years. It was a couple of minutes. Anyway, I get put in this room and physio was with me at the time, had come for the follow-up and sat next to me, and doctor started speaking in obviously full medical terms, and it just didn't sound great. But I was clueless. I left school at 16, got 2 GCSEs, clueless to what was going on. And I just said, can you put it in simple terms what's going on? She's like, yeah, you've got a tear straight through the back of your retina. You won't see it again out of that eye. And I just said, thanks. And I cried and I stood up and I walked out. I said, that's enough. I walked out the room, picked up the phone to my dad. I think my poor old physio's probably never been in this situation. Probably career over kind of bit like situation. Ring my dad, cry my eyes out to dad. I ring Albury, one of my best mates. He leaves work and he's meeting me where I'm staying at a family friend's house at the time. He somehow, I rang to tell him I didn't know, and he literally left work and was up there before I even got back. I got a 2-hour Uber ride home. I couldn't face ringing my mother. There was something about, and I don't know why, I just don't like giving, no one wants to give their mum bad news. And just to tell her that I'd never see out that eye again, I just couldn't do it. I said, Dad, bring mum. He was like, are you sure? Like, can't you do it? I was like, no, this one's not for me. I'll ring her later, but I need to. I sat in the car on the way home. I cried for 2 hours straight. And it was just brutal. I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know where I was. It was just, I was lost, and no one knew what to say to me because we just didn't know what was going to happen. And yeah, it was a brutal week. I went and faced the squad and told them what had happened, and then walked out the room. We at that time thought I was done. Then the BBC got wind of it and announced my retirement while I was in bed asleep one day. Ironically enough, it was during a test series, England versus New Zealand. And I decided to stay up till 6 a.m. because I had nothing better to do in life. So then was fast asleep next morning. Didn't get up till 11 o'clock, and I'd been getting phone calls from 8:30. BBC had said injuries forced him into retirement. Well, I hadn't officially. I got a head coach, performance director, everyone ringing me like, have you retired? It's like, no, I've just had some bad news last week and it's obviously got out. So that was a pretty brutal week. Had basically did interview after interview facing up, and I'll never forget during this time, obviously people were like, this could be one of the greatest comeback stories ever. And I did a BBC breakfast interview at the time, and I got a text a few hours later, and it was one of my good mates, Ollie, and a couple of them. They'd had a phone call behind my back, apparently, and he said, meet me for lunch later. So someone's going to have to drive you. I couldn't drive at the time. So someone's got to drive you, but just meet me for lunch. We need to talk. And he spoke to me about it, and he said, look, like, I'm actually a bit worried you believe in the hype right now. Like, can we just settle views down? And this was kind of where I realised about family, friends, and how close some of your mates were and how much they've been there for me, but also willing to have honest conversations. And that was kind of a big reality check to think, you know what, I can't, I've got to kind of, if I face reality here that I will never play again, anything else is a bonus. And that was our way of dealing with it. I didn't do anything for 12 weeks. I had, as much as I speak about having a pint and enjoying a pint, I'm now not playing hockey, and I had what we called beer fear at the time. I got taken to the pub 3 times. I got a pint, and I didn't dare touch it, and I was like, I'm on soft drink. And I was so scared because I was like, I have no control of my left eye right now. It's horrendous. And what happens if the right one goes fuzzy? Like, this is my life and soul. I've been sat having conversations. I'm now having night terrors because I've been told that my right eye, basically what they were saying was, if you play again, you risk getting hit in your right eye, you're then blind completely, and that will affect your whole life forever. So now this is so protected. Well, I'm now having nightmares every night that people are throwing darts at my right eye. It was just brutal. And it was a real challenging, 12 weeks. I needed time to grieve and accept what had happened and that nothing was really potentially on the cards. But this was potentially it. But let's kind of accept it, have some good times, and then we'll talk about things in the new year. And I went in to meet the physio who I hadn't seen for X amount of time, the one that spent all the time. I think the last time maybe he's seen me was actually when we found out about the eye. And we sat down and had a big chat and we kind of discussed options. And playing again wasn't really on the cards. And it was after a half an hour discussion, we were just like, yeah, this is this. And I went to stand up to walk out and she was like, are you going to give it a go? And that was it. Something in that kind of, are you going to give it a go, that day just changed my opinion on everything. And I went, yeah, let's do it. And we sat there, I sat back down, we drew a map. I'd obviously had 12 weeks of actually, first 6 weeks, obviously 8 weeks I struggled about having a bit, but after that but during that time I'd eaten what I wanted. I hadn't trained once for 12 weeks from a full-time athlete. I'd eaten what I liked, then gone back to enjoying Christmas, drinking what I liked. I'd put on weight, wasn't in great nick, and I basically had to get fit before we could even give hockey a go. And it took a lot of work with Katie, our psychologist, to kind of realise and set targets, we say, of what was realistic. And actually those small baby targets we set, and that anything was like a big bonus, probably changed my career from that day.
So in that moment, you said, right, let's do it, let's give it a go. And you're obviously, sounds like your physio and your psychologist did a great job with you. Talk to me about the sitting there saying, right, fuck it, let's give it a go, to actually getting back on the pitch. It was 12 weeks, right? It was
so to the first game was 12 weeks. So I got back on the pitch, I think, after about 5 or 6 weeks. So it was I actually rehabbed away from Bisham because I couldn't actually face it. So I was lucky enough to be supported by Fox Hills at the time. Nice golf club, resort and spa and everything near Ottershaw. And they looked after me and let me go and use their gym full time. So it was amazing. But the best thing was I didn't have to go to Bisham, which was the bit I couldn't face because I couldn't face any other athletes. I just didn't want to see them.
100%.
And 100%. Actually, look, they also went away to Australia and New Zealand at the time. They went to some Pro League trips. So it wasn't necessarily a thing. So the staff weren't even in either. So it was great. I could be local, pop down, do my bit of rehab and stuff. Well, day one, I got on the treadmill. I ran for 2 minutes. I got off. I went sat in the corner. And I sat there and I thought, why am I doing this? I had no guaranteed outcome. Like, if you're injured and you know that if you go and run for 6 weeks or rehab for 6 weeks, but you know you can play hockey, it's fine and it's your job. But in my head, I was like, I'm going to get to 6 week time and I just can't seal trap the ball and I'm all over the shop. And that was a challenge. But something in there, 10 minutes later, I picked myself up and that was it. From that day, I gymmed around every day for about 5 or 6 weeks. And then that earned me the rights to be allowed to go and trap and hit ball. I went back to hockey and early on, slow, bouncy balls, literally, my stick wasn't in the right postcode. Might as well have left it home. The ball was rolling into my feet, doing all sorts. You just couldn't take depth perception of anything. If the ball was stationary, you were semi-okay, but as soon as the ball was moving, you had plenty to kind of contrast it. You had to concentrate so hard. And I was like, there is not a chance this is happening. Anyway, it just got better and better for a few weeks. And then I actually made an appearance in a friendly. And I'll never forget it. We played against Sue Surbiton, our big rivals. We played a friendly on a Thursday night. And this ball gets thrown aerial, basically where they throw it over the top, like 60 yards. And I've had no depth perception. I have somehow picked this ball one-handed on the reverse stick. It now makes sense because actually It's a lot easier on reverse stick for me now because that's got my right eye at the front, so it tracks it better. So that is, if not even better, because now it's so strong and whatnot. But at the time, and everyone's like, wow, he's back in here. And that was kind of it. Like, I was nervous because that was only friendly. I could still dip in and out when I needed. And actually, it wasn't till a couple of weeks later we played more proper. And I played at Surbiton again in my first league back return. I was playing in these weird goggles at the time, not a mask. We weren't that far ahead of what to do. I scored an equaliser with, I think it was about 6 minutes to go. They were top of the league at the time. I think, yeah, scored an equaliser, celebrating in the most ridiculous way by covering my eye. And it was one hell of an emotional day. Hockey not followed. The BBC had come to follow the day. It was just one hell of an emotional day. But that was like the first box ticked of the return, but there was still so far to go to make an international comeback.
Yeah.
And probably, weirdly enough, COVID was horrendous, but that time that those 6 months brought me actually is probably where I am now.
Yeah.
And the time I spent during lockdowns catching balls off crazy nets, doing things like that, and retraining the eye to depth perception was probably what made all the difference. And the Olympics being delayed by a year, because I would not have been ready in 2020, but in 2021 I was. And actually my international return took 18 months. And I'll never forget it. We went out to Antwerp to play. I think it was April 2021 maybe. Yeah, it was. And, or March maybe. But it'd been 18 months, that's all I know. And I went out, played the first game. And I wasn't ready. But I also hadn't played, like other boys have played international hockey in between that time. Probably far from did myself any justice. Jokingly, having spoke to an assistant coach since, he said, apparently the head coach at the time said, I think he's done after that week. Which probably right. I was way off it. But also, if you have 18 months out of your international sport, you're not going to be on the top of your game. But that was kind of that. And I'll tell you the truth, at that point, I was not far off being done. I nearly retired. And I felt...
Why did you not? What stopped you?
Because I still hadn't achieved something that someone else hadn't. And something burning in me was like... And this is where we'll flip back to it. I didn't like the Sam who I was before the eye. And as much as people say to me, the eye's horrendous, I wouldn't change it for the world, because it's changed me as a person, and I'm a better person. If someone said, would you give every penny you had to get your eye and your vision back? Yes. But the whole experience and what I've had to live with and deal with, I would not swap for anything.
Wow. I mean, you're literally articulating my thoughts and my feelings. I'm the exact same. The person I become, way more humble. You actually said to me, your exact words were, and I wrote it down, you said, two-eyed Sam is a wanker. One-eyed Sam, yeah, he's alright. And I love that.
And it's true. Like, and when I say it, I mean what I say, for the fact that I obviously have come from a very normal background, and I've been looked after and given everything from my parents, and they've worked every inch to be able to support my whole career. Of course they have. And they have followed me wherever they can to watch me. And my friends have been amazing. But I got to become an international sportsman out of nowhere. And I don't think some people are prepared or ready for that. I'm doing great. I'm scoring loads of goals. And I just think I got too big for my boots. I thought I was the greatest thing since sliced bread, probably. And I just didn't make right life choices at times. And this is an example I use, and it sounds so silly, but I remember, like, I said I'm going to sit home to see mum and dad for the weekend, and on Friday night I got a text to say, do you fancy the pub? I ended up going out against So Smash and never going home. Sounds really simple, but you never know what's around the corner, like what happened to me. And these people that have done everything for you, that's just disrespectful. And that's what I didn't like, and friends that did everything and you probably took it for granted. And actually, yeah, there's obviously also the flip side to it. You learn who your mates are and everyone who supports you. And I owe them the world right now for how people drove 2.5 hours just to spend an hour with me when the eye had happened. People drove wherever and just looked after me. And I can't repay them for it. But on reality now, it really proved like, One-Eyed Sam has learned a lot about himself. And this is where I say I've become more self-aware and emotionally intelligent around things. And now I hope that I give back to people and show how much they've done for me. And I can now, that's why I'm back there. I'm playing hockey again because those people that looked after me, I owe it them to go and give my best shot. I had a jokey hashtag for a while that hockey is life. And hockey is far from life. Your friends and family are what matter. And I think the eye taught me what really mattered in life.
Yeah.
And the fact I had everything taken away from me really overnight at one point, and we thought that it has changed my whole perspective on the day-to-day life. And I want to do everything I can, whether it's in the team dressing room now or whatever, to make everyone as happy as they can be as well. And hopefully I can show them. I'm not a pleasant hockey player to play against. I'm open. I can accept that now. For numerous years of my career, I couldn't cope with people saying you're horrible, you're this. But that horrible person, I don't think was off the hockey pitch. It was the one on it. But I mentally and emotionally couldn't cope with just being opposite ends of the line, really. And they were so different characters, and then they just didn't work together. And then when you tried to, if you got a bit of angry Sam, hockey, animal, win at all costs Sam, combined with wanting to be really loving, you kind of ended up in some like mismatched middle. And I think I'm getting to a point in life where I'm comfortable in my own skin now.
Yeah.
And I love myself. And this is one of the things, if you said to someone, do you love yourself? Then answer it in a different way to what you want to mean. I want to hear everyone loves themselves, because if you can't love yourself, then who can you love? And that is the biggest thing it's taught me about now is yes, I love so many people. I do, and I want to be there for them as much, but I'm way better for loving and understanding myself as well. And that means you can share the love.